80% projects go over budget and don't see this problem coming until it's way too late. This is the most important document, construction cost report. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what it is, the 7 key components, and then how to read it line by line. Now, whether you're a project owner, project manager, or an owner's representative, it doesn't matter. This video will be the one you wish you watched before your last project. Let's get into it. All right, welcome to the ultimate guide to construction cost reports. And let's start by answering, what is construction cost report? We know that 80% of projects go over budget, not from bad contractors or bad weather. A lot of the time it's from bad financial visibility and people not seeing the future. Instead, they end up in the bad situations. Now, what exactly is this document? This critical document that everyone must need. All the financial information flows through this document. The committed amounts, the budgets, the payments and change orders and actuals. This is a critical document, but think of it like this. The cost estimate is done before the project starts. So this is really creating a prediction of what the project cost will be. It's kind of point in time. Sometimes they're doing it through the design phases. Now, a cost report is a live document that's updated during the construction, during the project. So if you're a project owner, that might be from the planning phase through the design, through construction. You'll have a cost report that tracks everything across the full life cycle. Or if you're a contractor or you're an owner's rep very focused on the construction stage, it will be updated during the construction stage and it'll be tracking all of the live costs that are happening once the project kicks off and once money starts getting spent. It really is a live document. It needs to be updated regularly, I would say almost on a daily or weekly basis, but then usually reported monthly. So it's a key document that everybody should care about, right from contractors all the way up to project owners, because it gives us the financial visibility into what's going on and allows us to make key decisions. So everyone really needs to understand this document. This is a fundamental document of the construction industry. Now, what is inside this document? What is inside a construction cost report? What must you include? And if any of these things are missing, I dare say you are going to have a problem because you're going to have a gap in your financial visibility, and that's going to lead to poor decision making. So you need all 7 of these. So I'll start from the left. You need budget. Budget includes a breakdown of your costs and also contingency. So that should feature as part of your budget. Maybe it's like a sub-bucket. Your cost report should have all of your committed amounts, and that includes changes that are committed progressively through the project, your change orders, your variations. To complete a real picture, you need to have all of the uncommitted amounts. And so that means to have a final forecast cost or an estimate at completion, you're going to need all the risks that might happen, unapproved change orders, scope that's not yet committed. All of this needs to be added to the committed amounts so that you can get a true picture of your final forecast cost. Finally, you need the actual costs. That gives us progress on site, what's been paid, what's about to be paid. That's showing us real value that is being delivered and how far the project is progressed. And all of that will merge into a cash flow that really takes all of that information and then stages it out temporarily over months and years, so you get that nice cash flow S-curve that we see on a construction project. So you need all 7 of those. Now, how to read a construction cost report? Now that you know all 7, let's do a line-by-line walkthrough of how I would interpret a cost report if I was looking at it from scratch and I hadn't seen it before. First of all, we're going to look at the math behind these columns. So typically, a cost report left to right starts with budgets. So we're going to have the budget columns on the left-hand side, and the original budget plus the adjustments equals the current budget. So that's the first formula you're going to need to know when you're interpreting a cost report for the first time. The next set of columns is really the committed amounts. So committed is the original signed contracts we talked about, purchase orders, and that is then updated with change orders, approved variations, and so you have the original contract plus change orders equals the current committeds, or in this screenshot, current contract. Either way. Now, then we have all the uncommitted stuff. So that is risks, scope, pending change orders. All of those live in an uncommitted column. But there's obviously registers behind this that have got all of your lists in it that pull into this column. Now, the estimate of completion is the current contract plus the uncommitted. So it's kind of these two now together. Current committed plus uncommitted equals the estimate at completion. This is the big one we want. Let's put a star on this. I don't know if I have a star, but we'll put a light bulb on there instead. Boom, that's the key one. And then at the end we have the variance. So and then payment columns on the far right. They're pretty straightforward, but variance is the EAC minus the budget, and that's how you get the positive or negative amount on top of all that. Okay, let's get rid of all that. So let's have a look. This is just an example cost report that I find easy to look at. This is from a system called Mastt, and it allows you to unravel the rows, so you can kind of drill down into the data really, really easily. So the first thing that I would be looking at is this top row, this kind of summary row along the top here, which is showing us the original budget amounts on the left, committed amounts in the middle, uncommitted, EAC, and variance. So what I'm looking at here is the variance. Is this project going over budget, or is this project going under budget? And at the moment, this project is currently forecasting to be $571,000 over budget. We have an estimate at completion of $4.521 million, yet we have a budget of only $3.95 million, and that means we are going to be over budget, and that is not good. Beneath that, you can see the breakdown of the variance here. So let's have a look now at the second thing I would be looking at, which is the budgets and the packages line by line. So the first budget we have is the planning stage budget here. This row is highlighted yellow and has a budget of $200,000, but an estimate at completion of $871,000. So this is where the blowout has occurred. Our planning costs are way over what we had budgeted, and we are $671,000 over what we had budgeted for that item. And that's where the bulk of the issue has come from. And if you unravel that, you can see all of the costs that have been associated with that budget. And there are some big ones in here. Fire engineering, $240,000. There's some GC costs in here for $379,000. So that visibility into the committed amounts, into where this money is going, is allowing us to see what's occurred and where things have gone very, very wrong. Now, do we have enough money to kind of cover all of this? So let's get rid of some of this yellow and find out what we can do about this situation. I want to check the contingency. Now, contingency should be a budget underneath the project. So we've got a planning budget, a design budget, a construction budget, contingency budget, and sometimes you may have a risk reserve as well. This project has only got $200,000 in contingency here, and I can see that $165,000 has actually been transferred out of contingency already. And so we've only got 34,000 left in our contingency bucket. A lot of it has been transferred into design and into the construction budgets already, presumably to cover, change orders or scope changes that have been coming down the pipe. So we don't really have any contingency left. We've only got 34,000 left, but we do have 100,000 left in risk to cover. But overall, we don't have enough money to cover off on the project's estimate at completion. So all of these checks can happen on one page, which is pretty amazing. So I can see the full financial health, check the forecast versus the budget, find packages of work that are potentially driving that big variance, see if I can cover those gaps with contingency, and now I can ask an informed question of the project, what are we going to do about it? Now, here's where you can save the real money. So let's continue down and look at the 5 flags. These are my 5 big red flags that are going to signal budget trouble on your project. The first one, the forecast keeps going up. So that's the final forecast cost, or the estimate at completion keeps going up. Now, this should be trending hopefully ever so slightly downward over the life of the project. You should be seeing this goes really slowly downwards toward the end, because that means a little bit of contingency and risk is being retired as the project progresses. What you don't want to see is it going up month to month, because that means there is poor forecasting going on, and poor prediction of risks, poor prediction of scope, and these things are now being committed into the project, driving your final cost, your estimate of completion upwards. So that is a big red flag. Month over month increases means that there is some procedural or structural issue going on inside your cost management function, and you need to find out what's going on and why that person or that team is not properly forecasting out an estimate of the cost at the end. So that is a big red flag. Number 2, contingency is being consumed faster than progress. Now, there's so many ways that contingency can go down the toilet. I've listed a few here. Unknown scope. People just make allowances in the budget. The design shifts for whatever reason. Risks occur. Maybe the site has a lot of contamination. A big one recently is the prices of materials worldwide. Time delays. Every decision, a stakeholder delay is a week. That is money. Client-driven changes. All of these things that end users want added into the project. All of these things consume the contingency, the precious contingency, and sends it into the toilet. So if the contingency is being consumed faster than you're actually making progress, it's going to run out. You want to hold on to the contingency and release it slowly through the life of the project so that you can help mitigate those cost overruns when you need it. It's not really a bucket of money that people can just spend on whatever they want. That's not what it is. So you want to be keeping track of those adjustments that are being made, how much contingency is being transferred out, keep a list of it, track what it's for, and then you'll have much greater visibility over your budget and being over budget. That's why I'd say behind all of this, behind the cost report, you want to have more registers for these things so that you can drill down if you need to. All right, let's move on. Big gap. Big gap between commitments and actuals. This is an awesome one. So real quick, this is the cost of the project over time. That is your budget. As the project progresses, you'll start to let work. So you'll let contracts, sign deals with construction companies and architects and engineers, and the committed amounts will go up with each contract and each commitment that you make. Now, once those are signed, people will start working. And so slowly invoices and pay apps and progress payments will start to be made, and you'll see this green line emerge, and you should be making payments, nice and regularly, kind of staying close to that blue curve all the way to the end. If you're not seeing these payments come in because they're not hitting milestones or work is not progressing on site, and you see this gap really stretch out, that is a big red flag because work is not being completed. The money needs to be flowing here to keep people employed, to keep people on site, keep people working, and that will be a big issue and put a big amount of pressure on hitting the deadline because time is money and you want to see that money, that lifeblood of the project, being spent as quickly as possible. So keep tracking this, make sure there's not a big gap. You want to see the actuals and the payments coming in as close as possible to your commitment line. Okay, number 4, too many pending change orders. What's going on? In Australia, they're called variations. In the UK, they're called variations. US, change orders. But you want to not have a backlog of these things. These need to be resolved. Are they going to be committed? Are they not going to be committed? If they're not committed, what are we doing about it, the change in the first place? So these need to be addressed. You need to have your project manager staying on top of change orders and variations and reporting all the ones that are pending because it is directly contributing to your estimate at completion because your estimate at completion or your final forecast cost is made up of uncommitted amounts. So it's super important that these are being tracked and you're staying on top of either approving them or rejecting them because you don't want them to get out of control. It could blow the budget, no problem. And of course, the last one, number 5, cost report hasn't been updated. Wow. We need to make sure this document, this report is updated. It needs to be statused so that all of the stakeholders can see accurate, timely information. So that is a big red flag that someone naughty is not doing their job and they need to be found. Okay, common mistakes. How to fix them. These patterns will undermine the reporting. So I just wanted to highlight a few of them to make sure that you do not do these mistakes. Number 1, reporting on actuals only. People will fall into this trap at the start of the project. Oh, I have a budget. Cool. Oh, look, I've paid my first invoice, second invoice, third pay app coming in. Great. That is like a very small fragment of the overall picture that you need. It doesn't tell you how much is committed. Doesn't tell you if you're going to be over budget. It's just paid versus budget. Not super useful. This is a rear view mirror. Look, what you want is a forward-looking view. You want to know what is the forecast, the estimate in the future, not just historical spend. So a good cost report must be forward-looking. I like this chart because it visualizes the cost report and it shows us where we're looking at the end of the project, the estimate at completion, the breakdown of the estimate at completion, which is made up of committed, uncommitted, risks and forecast, and of course, how much we are, in this case, unfortunately, over budget. It also allows us to see the payment progress towards this project. So instead of having one big bar of paid, that's a bit of a lag. You do have pay apps and invoices that are kind of in processing and you want to see those reported because they're going to come down the line very soon. Again, forward-looking, not a rear-view mirror, and this is a neat way that you can try and visualize it off your cost report. So, good one to use and a common mistake people use, common mistake people make and how to fix it. Okay, common mistake number 2. You sign a committed amount or a purchase order or a contract and then you just write in the lump sum, 10 million, 20 million. You need the detail. You need to list out all of the work elements and the scope so that you can track all of these things line by line accurately because change orders are going to come in, variations are going to come in, forecasts are going to be made, scope is going to happen, risks are going to occur, and you need that granularity for each of your commitments. You need to see these costs broken down so you can identify where the pressure points are. So I would encourage everyone to really get those contracts in. The AI tools these days, like you can just drag your PDF onto Mastt and it will pull out all the line items for you and populate your cost report. So you don't need to kind of skimp on the effort. You can really get all the detail in super easily now. So go detailed. Last common mistake that we see, people treating this as an accounting document. So it's not owned by the accounting team, it's owned by the project team. There's a difference between business accounting and project accounting. Accounting for the business is very retrospective, for the purposes of reporting up to the government, whereas if you're using it for project accounting, it becomes more of a management tool. And so you don't want to make that mistake. This is not for the accountants. This is for the project team. This is for the owner. This is for the board on what's happening with this big investment that's being made and driving big decisions. So the cost report will help you answer these questions. Are we on budget? What's it going to cost? What's driving all of these variances? Soon enough, someone will ask, oh my God, do we have enough money? And then hopefully not, do we need more money? Because off the back of that, tough decisions are going to be made, and this is the document that will inform all of those decisions. So it's not an accounting document. Don't treat it as such. It is a management tool and an important one. Now, that brings us to the end. So just to summarize the key takeaways, a cost report is a financial scoreboard. This is not an accounting exercise. This is a decision-making tool. I've shown you the tracker version of it, and there's a whole bunch of awesome dashboards that you can produce. A construction cost report includes 7 key components: budget, commitment, actuals or payments, variations, change orders, forecasts, contingency, and ideally a cash flow so that you can see the temporal spend of all of that over time. I would read it in 4 steps. Look along the top. What is the overall variance of this? What's the plan? And then drill into the line items one by one and see how you go then assigning contingency, moving it around, and then finally, what is the plan to resolve these things? We looked at 5 red flags. Those are back above. And then finally, bring this into your management forum. Bring this into the decision making. Bring this into the management committee, because this is a key decision making document. Okay, so how do you put all this into practice? You've got a few options. You can kind of go and build one yourself. You could use some AI tools to whip one up automatically, or you can look at some software. But I provided a free cost report template in the description below so that you can get started now and track all of these key 7 elements on your project today. And if you're running multiple projects, you're going to need one for each project. So that's where some software can really come in handy for you, give you much better data, because you're going to need to roll all those cost reports up, and that is what we use Mastt for. I'll leave a link in the description. Now, if this video was useful, hit subscribe. We're going to be doing more on this series: construction project controls, construction cost reporting, all the tips and tricks, all the AI tools, so that you don't make the same mistakes that I did when I was project manager. Thanks guys, see you in the next video.